Here I am on my Darkness Assassin, stealth class obviously. It's the tank spec for the Sith Assassin. It's the mirror of the Jedi Shadow Kinetic Combat. They're very unique classes and among my absolute favorites. Alright, I'm going to pull this guy to me. These videos, I really intend them for beginners, people new to MMOs and how they work. Interrupt. One of his abilities called, I think it's Force Storm or Force Project. Yeah, everything he does almost. He has a few instants and many casts, so you don't have enough interrupts to actually stop everything. It's worth stopping that Force Storm or Force Project, particularly if you're DPS, because it does a lot of damage. Tank can kind of eat it. I still like to interrupt whatever I can. Here's one of the unique things with the Shadow and Assassin tanks in particular. Now I sapped to sap a mez from stealth, which is a long duration crowd control ability, but it will break on damage. So what I did is I put a sap on one, and these are melee, these two characters I just killed, they'll chase me. So what I did is I used a very unique ability that is, it's called Wither, and on the Jedi Shadow tank, it is called Slow Time. It doesn't break the sap, it won't break CC. So what I did is I dropped that Wither, that non-CC breaking AoE, on the melee enemies and kited them away so that I could use other AoE abilities like Saber Discharge and Lacerate. I'm doing the same thing here. I slept the gold, the one with the most health, and I kited away the two melee silver elites. They have less health and will die faster, and as soon as they're out of the fight, they can't do damage anymore. It's generally a mistake to kill the strongest weakest. Once in a while, you want to work on the strongest first, but it's a rare exception. Usually, you want to kill the weakest first. Or not necessarily the weakest, the lowest health. They can often do a lot of damage, even though they have less health. I pulled this guy over to the wall here. Almost everyone here has a knockback, so I like to kind of frustrate their ability to knock me back, so I try to get my back against the wall or some other object. I did that with the first enemy. And I'm going to kind of do a rinse and repeat. This is kind of what works here. I will put a sap on the strongest, so to speak, the highest health enemy, the gold elite, and then I will attack the silvers. Some are ranged and I won't be able to kite them. They won't follow me unless I have a good line of sight. If I have an object to hide behind really well, where they have to run around to get to me, but that doesn't always happen. The environment doesn't always allow that. So I kited these two back here. I'm free to use my AoE, my Saber Discharge, and Lacerate. It won't hit the gold who's asleep over there. So now go and find a place. Now this isn't going to work. Try this thing over here. It's not really necessary, but I kind of like to find little techniques to sort of frustrate the enemies, and I'll pull him over and start pounding on him. Now the next group of enemies I'm going to fight, I'm not going to be able to do the same thing. I'm going to have to stand there and I won't be able to use AoE. Other than Wither at first, because my next two enemies, I've done this before, this is one of my favorite little heroic missions where Jedi gets to fight Sith. I also like missions where, the Sith gets to fight Jedi. I also like missions where Jedi get to fight Sith. Now, these two silver elites will not chase me, since I don't really have a good line of sight here. So I'll sleep him, I'll use Wither, AoE, which won't break hit the CC, and now one at a time, I will cut down the silver elites, just using single target damage, not going to waste my interrupt on him. Now, maybe this console here will be a little bit useful in keeping me from getting knocked back too far. Keep up my ward there. That's another very unique feature with the Jedi Shadow and the Sith Assassin tank, Shadow tank and the Assassin tank. They are light armor tanks, which is kind of counterintuitive, but thematically it's very cool because they, in this game, in the Old Republic, they use the Force to protect themselves. So I find that another really cool sort of feature of these classes, that they're light armor. yet they can take a lot of damage. They're tanks with light armor. It's a very unusual thing that I like very much. Now, let's see. I've got a requirement for a certain number of gold and silver enemies, gold and silver elites here to complete this stage of the quest. So I'm going to kite these two away again. It's as I said, it's a lot of rinse and repeat. They do what works basically. I love the visuals on the assassin and pretty much on the shadow too. Shadow is one ability I really like more visually, but the equivalent on the it's a spinning kick, which has a stun on it. On the shadow, it's called spike on the assassin, and it's a lightsaber attack. I like the spinning kick a little more. It's a little more flamboyant, but they're both cool. Another thing I really like about the Jedi Shadow and the Jedi Shadow tank and the Sith Assassin tank, and it's true of all the specs. They also have damage specs, DPS specs for the Shadow and Assassin. It has a really nice mix to me, a nice mix of abilities that comprise both Force abilities and Saber abilities, Saber Staff, which I think is especially cool. Usually it's one or the other. Now, I really do like the Sorcerer and the Sage, Jedi Sage, Sith Sorcerer, although you will rarely, if ever, use the Saber. They're almost all Force attacks. The Saber attacks on those two are very weak, and they're really not part of any skill rotation, but it is still kind of fun on my Sorcerer and Sage healers. If an enemy gets close to me when they're almost dead, I like to finish them off with a Saber sometime. It's just fun. Okay, now here I'm going to try to kite a little bit this Champion Jedi Master, although this area is not really ideal for kiting. I really like to have a big open area to kite. This is not open enough for my taste. It still works. It's still good. But I could kite her out into that big room out there, but I'm afraid that I'll exceed the leash range. And you know, in these games, they tend to have a range within which the enemy must be kept. If you exceed that range in trying to kite them, make them follow you and stay out of their melee attacks, they get too far, they can reset, and you got to start the fight all over again, which is really annoying. So I hesitate to take her out into that big room, which would be better for kiting. Anyway, it's still fine. It's still fun. I like this fight a lot. I like this somewhat epic fight between a Sith and a Jedi here. And now I'm up to the last stage of the quest. I have to go and kill the last few Jedi initiates here. They're training Jedi on Nar Shaddaa. And now I'll sneak up and I'll put Wither on them all and I'll lacerate, and that should kill them. There's Wither, lacerate, and they're dead, and I'm done. Okay, I hope you kind of enjoyed this. Hope to give people an idea of what it's like to play a Sith Assassin tank. I love it, and if I can encourage anyone else to play it, well, that's cool. Alright, I'll cut this off here.